Welcome to Morning Java with Jawin Naturalists, Laura Rogers, and Kathie Driscoll. Love your cup.
Love yours.
What are we going to talk about today, Ms. Rogers?
I am so glad you asked, Ms. Driscoll. We're going to talk about the winter solstice, which is, yay!
It's today. I'm so excited.
I know it is. It's a big dealio, but a lot of people don't really know what it's all about. So I got my scientific equipment out here.
I see. That's very
This is supposed to be the planet Earth. I do have an inflatable globe somewhere. Not in my hands right now, but somewhere. So
I can understand we're not actually out there doing programs. It's real easy to misplace all of your conceptual.
I know. I can never find anything until the second after I need it. But that's a whole other story. All right. Oh, by the way, my husband Norm will be injecting little bon mot as we go, and he says Bill Nye would have all of his equipment ready. And
oh, really?
Thanks, honey.
He also had a staff. So
yeah, he had a staff, a paid staff. Any hoozles. This will have to be our planet Earth.
All right.
And this, I drew a smiley face for the Northern Hemisphere, not to say that the Southern Hemisphere is sad or anything, but just to let us know, for most of our viewers, we live in the Northern Hemisphere. So, of course we know, and pretend my head is the sun. Okay. So we know that the Earth goes around the sun. I'm doing some moves here. Not only that, it also spins on its axis, right? And when it goes around the sun, that's 1 year. And when it spins on its axis, that's 1 day. So just a little bit of review. However, it would be super interesting. It would be a totally different world if it spun, literally a different world. If it spun on its axis perfectly up and down like this, but actually it tilts a bit. There's about I don't know, 23, 24% tilt. And because of that tilt, this is why we get the seasons: summer, fall, winter, and spring. So here we are in the Northern Hemisphere. As the Earth goes around the sun, and as it's tilted towards the sun in the Northern Hemisphere, that means it's summer. That's what makes it kind of warm. And then it goes around, right about here in the middle. Hello. Would you call this an eclipse?
I've totally been eclipsed, man.
A big fat basketball in your face. This is in between. So this would be fall. And as we get around this way, notice how the Northern Hemisphere, right here where our smiley face is tilted away from me, the sun. See how it's tilted away?
Yes, I can.
Means it's winter. That's cold. Now in the Southern Hemisphere, interestingly enough, while it's winter for us, the Southern Hemisphere is closest tilted towards the sun. That's why people in Australia, Christmas is a summer picnicky thing. Going around, there's spring, and then back to summer.
That's awesome. You could be I was going to say a great basketball player, but
anywho, that's the science of it. That's why we have shorter days. But why is that such a big deal? Why should we mark this as a something remarkable, as a holiday?
Well, I thought that the whole thing about the solstice was that because the sun was, as ancient people thought, leaving in the Southern Hemisphere,
yes.
And they're living in the Northern Hemisphere, that they had to do various things to beg the sun to come back.
Yes, they were afraid.
These guys.
Yeah, those guys. And this guy right here. And so they were really scared before they knew exactly what was happening. That to them, it appeared like each day was getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And they thought, the sun might disappear altogether. And then when they finally realized that after a certain point, the days started getting longer again, they were like, woohoo, we got to celebrate. I'm paraphrasing.
Solstice. Okay. Sol, if we've learned anything about science, means sun, right?
Yes, it does.
So does that mean standing, maybe?
I think it does. I think it means standing still. So if you put it together, solstice, the sun standing still. So imagine the sun getting shorter, 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 shorter. And then it seems almost like it's maybe for a day, standing still before it gets longer, 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 longer. So that was a pretty big dealio.
That was pretty remarkable term to come up with for
Yeah.
December 21st, where we get our shortest day. That's sweet.
Isn't it? I'm
Okay.
loving it.
Okay. So that was a big deal. So
Yep.
we wanted to talk about some of the rituals from the various countries and
Yep.
different time frames, particularly like really far back, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, could go all the way back to my favorite, the Druids.
Oh yeah, Druids were awesome.
What do you know about the Druids?
Oh, I should know more about
Earthy,
the Druids.
crunchy people or something?
They were earthy, crunchy, very.
Huh.
Yeah. So I should know more about the Druids because they are my people, but you really don't know as much as I should. Yeah, they're my peeps.
I have a little bit, so I
Okay.
guess I can share what I know about. Well, the Druids were a part of this, but like the holly and the ivy, and I'll try not to sing the song. And the other plant, mistletoe.
Yeah.
So, part of Solstice, I think, was really a lot to do with the natural resources that they were utilizing to entice the sun to come back or keep spirits away. So I actually have, let's see, this is not real. This is like my mom's plastic ivy decoration. And it's on a Yule log. I'll explain that afterwards. But so bringing plants into the house or utilizing plants had a lot of meaning behind them or symbolism behind them. And one with the holly which is an Ilex aquifolium. It came to understand, people believe that it was joy and peace. And they said that, in certain countries, people would stand under the holly tree to, pan out an argument, mediate over arguments. Ooh. So I think the next time I have an argument with somebody, I might say, let's go over to a holly tree. And
we could use that these days, couldn't we?
Yes, we could. On the other side of the coin there, holly was also believed to frighten off witches. And protect the home from, like I said, evil spirits. So I have information from West England. It's that sprigs of holly was put around the young girl's bed on Christmas Eve to keep away mischievous little goblins.
Oh my.
I know. So here's my little goblin. Ding, 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 ding.
Right. He's persistent.
He does look like he might be a sock chewer.
Maybe like they were ninja. Yeah.
There's a shroom.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that. Okay.
It's a mushroom.
I thought it might have been one of those like ninja things. Anywho, go on. No.
Earthy. I'll use them for everything. Okay, so it was supposed to protect the young girl from evil goblins. I'm thinking, what would the goblin do? Steal her socks or something?
You don't want that. Yeah, you don't want that. But
other things I think is completely valid in England. They also put holly around their beehives to protect them.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, see, I would think that would make sense to me. So in Germany, which is where I hail, a piece would be used as church decorations as a charm to ward off any lightning, which I thought was kind of interesting. I've never really heard that lightning in Germany at wintertime, but weather.
Maybe it's because they were protected.
Yeah. Wow, that was deep. I had to think about that. Stop me in my tracks. They also believed that the winter was going to be kind of like a farmer's almanac, the harsher winter, based on the amount of berries that the plant would produce. So the more berries, the harder the winter.
Oh, yeah.
They too put holly around the bed. I never once had a holly leaf while I was visiting my aunts in Germany near my bed for sweet dreams.
I guess you have to bring your own. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and then lastly, my Druid peeps, as you were saying, only green plants found dead in winter was to ward off evil spirits and bring good luck to the household. So
Okay.
that's what the Druids used the holly for. So that's 3 different countries, 3 different ancient peoples utilizing the same plant. There must be something to that.
Coincidence? I think not. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Okay, so then there's the ivy. And yes, I just got 2 little pieces of ivy to share with everybody. Hedera helix. And the ivy I find interesting because this was a plant that was, green during the winter months. And it's true, it's green during the winter months. And they were trying to bring in as much greenery in the house. So I can see that one. It's easy to pull off. And so therefore they thought that it was a kind of a weak plant and the feminine opposite of the holly. So holly represented masculinity and ivy represented femininity. So hence, I guess the song of the holly and the ivy came together from England. And it also meant promise and eternal life. So I might just, I don't know, stick this somewhere. The last plant I have is a tradition of solstice, is the mistletoe. And you can't buy mistletoe anymore.
Oh, man.
Because the berries are poisonous. And
well, then there you go. It's probably a good idea.
But they just don't eat it. I don't understand.
What? Don't eat it. Yeah, well, that takes common sense, which there's none of anymore. So,
well, and it's interesting about the mistletoe because ancient people found this as a very fascinating plant, and yet I still have people asking me if I had access to real live mistletoe. And mistletoe actually grows on a host specific plant. Its scientific name is Viscum album. And it's, partially parasitic or hemiparasitic, that the roots sends out its roots to penetrate a tree and take up its nutrients. And it's usually an oak tree. Yeah. And so they're high up. And the only way I know to get one is to shoot it down. And
don't try this at home, everybody. Yeah.
Do that. So I got a plastic one. Hopefully the common name mistletoe was derived from a belief of what bird droppings would do. Yeah, I'll let that sink in there for a second. It was propagated from bird droppings. Yeah. The belief was related that the life could spring spontaneously from dung.
You gotta love that. I mean, really, that's pretty hardcore.
That also sounds rather Druidish to me, but
doesn't it? Yeah,
because
I mean,
the Druids were tree people. Yeah,
circle of life, like food, poop, food, poop, food, poop. Just round and around and around, using everything.
Well, okay, so with the dung in mind, all right, so they thought that this plant would appear at wintertime where birds had been sitting and therefore leaving their droppings behind. Right. It's an Anglo-Saxon word that actually means dung. Missile means dung.
I did not know that.
Uh-huh.
How cool is that?
Uh-huh. And so twig represents the term tan. So mistletoe literally means dung on a twig.
I love that.
I'm going to wash my hands afterwards.
Yeah.
So branches of mistletoe were hung from the ceilings. They thought to cure diseases, render poisons harmless, whereas now we say, no, it is poisonous. Well, and then again, another anti-witchcraft. So if you don't want any witchery to, prey upon you, you might want to keep this hanging around.
Protect yourself. Yep. Arm yourself.
I take this over garlic around my neck any day.
I don't know, but garlic, at least you can eat.
It gives you smell.
Yeah.
And to protect houses from ghosts. All right.
Cool.
So that's Middle
Awesome.
Ages. Parts of England and Wales, farmers would give the Christmas bunch of mistletoe to the first cow that would have a calf in the new year.
Oh.
And that was obviously to bring good luck. And for those who wish to observe the correct etiquette for the most famous tradition of mistletoe, and that is kissy kissy.
Yeah.
It only works if the guy kisses the girl. He has to be the aggressor under the mistletoe.
Really?
Dong! Yes.
Really? Huh.
Mm-hmm. He should pluck a berry when he kisses a woman under the mistletoe, and when the last berry is gone, there should be no more kissing. So let me count this up. 3, 6, 9, 12 kisses out of this one.
So you definitely want to get a sprig with a lot of berries for a night of hot action. Okay.
For a guy. Right. All right. And then lastly, I read a little bit about the Norse people. They're from up north, and they found that mistletoe was a sign of love and friendship. So mistletoe is a pretty significant plant as well.
That is so cool.
So lastly, I had then my favorite of the what we call the pagan rituals is the Yule log, because bringing back the sun was meaning to create fire. And so in the ancient times, the Yule log was actually a whole tree they'd chop down, and they'd bring that into the house and put it in the hearth. And it really started in Scandinavia. So up north where it's cold, I can imagine that, yeah, a whole tree should hold us over for 21 days during the winter solstice, right? This is a picture of them dragging a whole tree to the hearth. And
wow,
it doesn't go all the way in that hearth. So you basically got a tree burning in your house, and you just have to keep pushing it in to the fireplace as it burns until it's all gone. So
wow.
I know this is a little dangerous, so I wouldn't try that at home.
Again, yeah, don't try that at home. But boy, that must have kept, in the dead of winter, that must have kept people pretty warm.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a way they were pretty smart about it. In fact, I found a little tidbit of information in Germany and the Yule log, and they actually added chemicals, leave it to the Germans, to make some colors. So when, and I remember this as a kid, my mom had like this package of something that we would add to the fire. And if I could find it, there's a picture of my brother and myself sitting by the fireplace. And we're like looking at the fire, and there's all these colors kind of popping out of it.
Ooh, how cool.
Probably why we're pyromaniacs. I don't know. We love to burn. So the tree was carefully chosen. In fact, it was like the oak god at some juncture that they believed in. So it was a tree that they actually meant joy and also noise. So it was a season to rejoice during the year of Christmas time. Joyful noise.
Beautiful. Well, that was very extensive, and gosh, I when talking about traditions, there are so many that I love, but I have to say the one that jumps to the front of my mind, because I am such a twisted, strange person, and you know that about me. That's why you love me. I am. I'm a bit strange, and I love Christmas. I love the solstice, but my favorite holiday of all, as you all know, is Halloween, because it's just so subversive and fun. So, of course, my favorite tradition of the solstice and this time of year is something with a little Halloween twist. There is a kind of an anti-Santa called Krampus, who is an evil little guy, and this is an Austrian tradition, but I believe Krampus, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong out there, people, all of our fans, Krampus, I believe, is kind of a Scandinavian or Northern Europe in general tradition. But in Austria, there's something called the Krampus Run. And by the way, Krampus, being the anti-Santa, his big dealio was to find the bad boys and girls. So Santa gets to take care of the good boys and girls and leave them gifts. But Krampus, if you've been bad, he's going to come after you and get you and stick you in his sack and carry you away to who knows where. So, by the way, if you're having trouble picturing Krampus, so I have a Krampus scarf that I bought my husband. There's that's how you spell it. There's Krampus with all the little boys, bad boys and girls in his sack.
Oh, I see them.
Yeah, you see their little faces. Ah!
And he's skulking off with them.
Yeah, he's skulking off. Here's a close up of his beautiful face. Yeah. So, definitely not a fun guy to be with if you're a naughty boy or girl. So this Krampus run, it's called the Krampus Run, and it's in Austria, and it's when everybody dresses up right around the solstice and Christmas. You dress up as like a witch or a monster or something really scary, and you run through the streets, scaring away all the naughty darkness, all the bad vibes.
Naughty kids.
Right, all the naughty kids.
Alliteration, I think is what I want to say, where you learn something from this story. And Red Riding Hood wasn't supposed to go into the woods. So I can see Krampus being the one. I would show that picture to a child in January and say, see this? you got to
prepare for the year to come. Right. We're going to put a poster up in your room. But, it's interesting because from what you were talking about and from the Krampus and all the other traditions around this time of year, they all seem to have this underlying theme of, wow, it's dark and cold and scary out there. We want to keep the light in our view so that we can get through this dark, scary time. We're going to try to scare off these dark, scary things, and we're going to try to grab for the light and hope and just send good vibes that the light will come back. So I kind of get that whole thing.
Well, and that's what we do now when you think about it. It's a season of lights. We celebrate, dun, da, da, da. Love your Christmas tree. That's another German tradition. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and I love all your light blings back there. That's so cool.
Oh, my nutcrackers.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay. So, so that brings us to, what do people do nowadays?
Nowadays, fast forward.
Yeah, that's similar to these traditions. I don't think we lost a whole lot of those traditions. I know that at night, I personally love to walk around and look at the Christmas lights. Yeah. So do you have a favorite tradition that you like to do?
I do. I'm kind of like you. I like to light fires. So I like to have campfires. Had a beautiful fire. I tried to film it. I mean, I did film it, but whether we're going to be able to see it or not is up to the technology gods. Hello, everybody, and happy winter solstice. Built a nice fire, warming up. As you can see behind me, the sun is setting. Wonderful time of the year. A little chilly, so I'm all bundled up. I do love having bonfires on the winter solstice. It's actually quite a popular tradition. It's been around for many, many generations. Because basically it represents light. This time of year, everything is cold and dark and hidden in the earth. But the symbolism of the fire, of candles, the bonfire, lights, any kind of lights we have, kind of helps us to remember that just because things are dark and cold doesn't mean that there isn't light underneath it all, and that it will indeed come back, just like the sun will. All right, so one of my favorite traditions to do with a bonfire is, and you can do this alone or with a bunch of people, and I know a bunch of people is probably going to be your family, the people you've been hanging out with for the past 9 months. But what you can do is write down on a little piece of paper all of the things that you kind of want to let go of. It could be physical things, objects, or maybe some kind of habit that you've been just been nagging at you that you kind of want to get rid of, and you write it down on a piece of paper. I have a couple right here. And it could be 1 or it can be 30, or somewhere in between. You write it down, that thing that you want to let go of, just let it go. You fold it up and you toss it in the fire, and it burns up. And the idea is that you're releasing that whatever negative thing that is, thing that you don't really want in your life, you're letting it go. You're letting the fire just take it. So I made a couple. This one here is, I'd really like to let go of being so incredibly awesome, because I think it intimidates people, So if I could just be a little less awesome in the years to come. So you can do each one separately and just kind of feel all those negative feelings and thoughts just kind of release into nature, burn away. Fire is very cleansing. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can write down anything that you'd like to concentrate on or focus on or welcome into your life in the year to come. I wrote down here that I'd like to start actually practicing that ukulele that I bought that's sitting pretty much untouched in my back room. Learn to play the ukulele. I'd like to do that in the coming year. And when you're done, you can do any simple ritual like cheering, yay, or ringing bells, just to kind of seal the moment. So get out there and set some stuff on fire. Happy solstice, everybody.
That was awesome. I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I was there last night with the fire. That would have been fun.
It was pretty nippy out there, so the fire was much appreciated.
Oh, I know. In Michigan, I guess it is pretty nippy there.
Yes.
we were anticipating snow, and I think it might be freezing rain now.
The joys of winter.
Chilly here, but I'm sure it's chillier there. With your tradition, I have to admit that one of my favorite traditions, you said letting things go, by the end of the year, is to include thinking about what I would like for the new year and bringing in the new year, which is also another, I guess you could say pagan type tradition. However, I'm shooting for like virtues. And when I think about it, like what would I like for the new year? Like hope, faith, love, that kind of thing. And then to, kind of wish for that and then let that go. And one of the popular solstice kind of thing is to write something down on a natural material, like a rock. Okay. And I do recommend not taking things off, out of any national forests or anything like that. But if you have a rock, and you want to say, I would like to have love and dreams for the new year, dare to dream in the new year.
Yes.
So I'm going to take this and I'm going to toss it into my pond. Here I go, off to make my wish and drop it into my pond. There's my pond. Dun, 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 dun. You can hear it. It sounds more like a river. Toss